warm greetings to everyone on the behalf of entire Team 17. In the previous video, we have discussed about what were the problems behind poverty and what were the reasons behind poverty. In this video, we'll talk about the ideation of the problem. What are the schemes that government has introduced to reduce poverty? So we have divided this video in three categories. First is the schemes that government has introduced. Second is poverty elevation program or critical assessment. And third is the alternative solutions. So the first scheme that I'm talking about is NSAP, National Social Assistance Program, that was launched on 15th August 1995. The National Social Assistance Program represents a significant step towards the fulfillment of the directive principles in Article 41. The Article 41 of the Constitution of India directs the state to provide public assistance to its citizens in case of unemployment, old age, sickness and disablement, and in case of undeserved want within the limit of its economic capacity and development. So next is, what is the objective of NSAP? National Social Assistance Program is a social and welfare program to provide support to aged persons, widows, disabled persons and bereaved families on death of primary breadwinner. Components of NSAP. What are the components of NSAP? The NSAP at its inception in 1995 had three components: National Old Age Pension Scheme, National Family Benefit Scheme and National Maternity Benefit Scheme. So the National Maternity Benefit Scheme was subsequently transferred on 1st April from the Ministry of Rural Development to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So presently NSAP comprises of 5 schemes mainly. So the first scheme is Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme. Second is Indira Gandhi National Widow Pension Scheme. Third is Indira Gandhi National Disability Pension Scheme. Fourth is National Family Benefit Scheme and Annapurna. So next is eligibility and scale of assistance. For getting benefits under NSAP, the applicant must belong to below poverty line according to the criteria prescribed by Government of India. So the first is Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme. The eligible age is 60 years. The pension is Rs 200 per month for persons between 60 to 79 years. For persons who are 80 years and above, the pension is Rs 500 per month. Next is Indira Gandhi National Widow Scheme. The eligible age is 40 years and the pension is Rs 300 per month. After attaining the age of 80 years, the beneficiary will get Rs 500 per month. Next is Indira Gandhi National Disability Scheme. The eligible age for pension is 18 years and above and disability level has to be 80%. The amount is Rs 300 per month, and after attaining the age of 80 years, the beneficiary will get Rs 500. DOS will also be an eligible category for this pension. Next is National Family Benefit Scheme. Rs 20,000 will be given as a lump sum assistance to the bread-debt household in the event of death of the breadwinner. It is clarified that any event of death, natural or otherwise, would make the family eligible for the scheme. A woman in the family who is a homemaker is also considered as a breadwinner for this purpose. The family benefit will be paid to such surviving member of the family of the deceased poor who, after local inquiry, is found to be the head of the household. For the purpose of the scheme, the term household, which includes spouse, minor children, unmarried daughters and dependent parents. In case of death of an unmarried adult, the term household would include minor brothers or sisters and dependent parents. The death of such a breadwinner should have occurred while he or she is more than 18 years and less than 60 years. The assistance would be given to each and every of death of breadwinner in a family. Next is Annapurna Scheme. 10 kgs of food grains is given per month per beneficiary. The scheme aims at providing food security to meet the requirements of those eligible old persons who have remained uncovered under the IGNO-APS. So next I would like to invite Bushra and Ankita to discuss one of the important schemes, that is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana.
Everyone, this is Bushra.
Hi, my name is Ankita.
So Ankita, one of the very popular schemes used to eliminate the poverty is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Can you please tell something about it?
It was launched with the aim of providing housing at an affordable price to the weaker section of the society, low-income group of people, urban poor and rural poor. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana also has two components, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. There are also some other schemes like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Saubhagya Yojana, Yojala Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana.
So, Ankita, many poor people are actually unaware about the program, due to which they are not able to take the benefits of this program. So, how do these poor people apply for it?
PMA can be applied under two categories. The first one, under three components. The economically weaker section are considered as beneficiaries for the Housing for All scheme. The second one, slum dwellers. These include people living in poorly built residences which are unhygienic and have unhealthy drinking water.
Some of the frequently asked question involves, can one person apply twice?
No, since it is linked with the Aadhaar card, you would not be able to apply twice.
Okay, is there any registration fee for the same?
If you are applying to online portal, there will be no charges. But if you apply offline, you will have to pay a registering fees of Rs 25 plus GST. So Bushra, we have heard a lot about midday meals. Can you please brief us about it?
Yes, midday meal scheme is a wholesome, freshly prepared cooked food which is served in the government-aided schools. With the twin objective of improving the education as well as the healthcare of the country, this scheme became very popular in India. On 28 November 2001, the Supreme Court passed an order stating we direct all the state government and the union territories to implement the MDN scheme so that each and every child in each and every government school is able to have a full meal.
So what do you think? What are the benefits of this scheme?
This scheme aims to increase the enrollment and the attendance in the school. At the same time, it also improvises in socialization among different castes, as many children from the backward caste start attending the school. So the students of different castes sit in the same classroom, improvising the socialization. At the same time, this also improves the malnutrition of the country and also empowers women by giving them employment.
On July 2013, many children from Bihar died as a result of unsafe food preparation. What are your views on it?
As per me, there are various layers of government which are involved in this scheme, due to which there is poor information, communication and monitoring of the scheme. Due to corruption and lack of monitoring, this scheme has not been able to be implemented properly. Who cares what the poor eats? We also see that it is very difficult for the government to deliver the food to the rural and backward areas, give regular payment to the cook and ensure the hygiene of the food in some of the rural and backward states of India. And that is why we need to look into this matter very urgently.
Next, I would like to pass on to Saurav who will discuss further about the schemes. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Saurav Mahapatra. I am here to discuss about the next scheme, that is National Rural Livelihood Mission. Various schemes are on for rural development. National Rural Livelihood Mission is one such government initiative for the rural areas. Later, it was named as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission Day NRLM, the new name given to Ajivika NRLM in November 2015. The Day NRLM is essentially a poverty relief program of the central government. It was launched as Ajivika National Rural Livelihood Mission NRLM by the Government of India's Ministry of Rural Development in the year 2011. This program is also partially supported by the World Bank. It also aims at creating effective institutional platforms to enable the rural poor to increase their household income by means of sustainable livelihood enhancement and better access to financial schemes. Also, the poor would also be enabled to attach improved access to rights, public services and other entitlements. The mission aims at harnessing the inherited capabilities of the poor and equip them with capacities such as knowledge, information, tools, finance, skills and collective action for them to take part in the country. Also, some of the major features of Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission are promotes the universal social mobilization, means a minimum of one lady member of rural poor household is to be brought in the network of SHG, that is self-help group. It also enhances the participatory identification of the poor. It also increases the financial inclusion of the people. It also promotes the livelihood of the people, by which it focuses on promoting and stabilizing the existing livelihood structures of the poor through as three pillars, which are vulnerability reduction, livelihood enhancement, employment, and enterprises. Another important feature of the scheme is that it places a high priority on convergence and partnerships with other government schemes also. Here it is all about the scheme. Now I am inviting Kritika to discuss about the next scheme.
Hello everyone, this is Kritika Mishra and I will be telling you all about Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, which is the largest guarantee program in the world, was enacted in 2005 with the primary objective of providing 100 days of wage employment per year to rural households. Secondly, it aims at addressing the causes of chronic poverty through the works that are undertaken and thus ensuring sustainable development. Finally, there is an emphasis on strengthening the process of decentralization through giving a significant role to Panchayati Raj institutions by providing and implementing these works. The key features involved in the scheme are: first, legal right to work. Unlike earlier employment guarantee schemes, the Act provides legal right to employment to all the adult members of rural households. At least one-third beneficiaries must be women, and allowance must be provided on the basis of agricultural laborers. Second, time-bound guarantee of work and unemployment allowance. Employment must be provided with 15 days of being demanded, failing which an unemployment allowance must be given. The Standing Committee highlighted several achievements of this scheme in the 7 years of its implementation. First, ensuring livelihood for people in rural areas. Large-scale participation of women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other weaker sections of the society. Facilitating sustainable development. Strengthening Panchayati Raj institutions by involving them in the planning and in monitoring the scheme. The challenges involved in the scheme are: delay of payment of wages, non-payment of unemployment allowances, large number of incomplete works. The committee made the following recommendations also for the scheme. First, regulation of job cards. The participation of women must be increased. The participation of people with disabilities must be raised. The scheme was implemented in phases starting from February 2006, and at present it covers almost all the districts of the country with the exception of those which are having 100% urban population. Thank you everyone. Next we have Shanmukh, who will be describing you about the next scheme.
Now I am going to discuss a scheme which is known as PDS, Public Distribution System. PDS is an Indian food security system established under Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. PDS involved as a system of management of scarcity through distribution of food grains at affordable prices. It is operated under the joint responsibility of central and state government. PDS was introduced under the World War II. Before the 1960s, distribution through PDS was generally depends of food grains. The revamped public distribution system (RPDS) was launched in June 1992 with a view to strengthen and streamline the PDS as well to improve its reach in the far-flung, hilly, remote and inaccessible areas where a sustainable section of underprivileged classes lives.
Antyodaya Anna Yojana was a step in the direction of making TPDS, aiming at reducing huge amount of poorest segment of BPL population. A national sample survey exercise pointed towards the fact that about 5% of total population in the country sleeps without 2 square meals a day. In order to make TPDS more focused and targeted towards this category of population, The Antyodaya Yana Yojana was launched in December 2000 for 1 crore poorest of poor families.
Now I would like to discuss about the functions of PDS system and its importance. The central and state government share responsibility in order to provide food grains to identified beneficiaries. The central procures food grains from farmers at minimum support price and sells it into state and central issue price. It is responsible for transporting the grains to godowns in each state. Importance of PDS. It helps in ensuring the food and neutral security of nation. It has helped in establishing food prices and making food available to the poor at affordable prices. It maintains and buffers stock of food grains in warehouse so that the flow of food remains active even during the period of less agriculture food production. It has helped in redistribution of grains by supplying food from surplus regions of the country to deficient regions. Now the major issues associated with the PDS system in India are identification of beneficiaries. Studies have shown that targeting mechanisms such as TDPS prone to large inclusion and exclusion errors. And then comes leakage of food grains, issues with procurement, issues with storage in shortfall government storage capacity, and environmental issues like rapid groundfalls depletion.
So till now in the video I've discussed about the schemes that the government has introduced to reduce poverty. Now we'll discuss about Poverty Elevation Program, a critical assessment. So 3 major deficiencies of PAPs. First one, owing to poor delivery mechanism, benefit of PAPs have been appropriated by the non-poor. That is, the poor does not get the benefits of that and the non-poor are getting the benefits indirectly. Second is, compared to the magnitude of the problem, the resources allocated to tackle the problem are quite deficient. Third is, owing to the involvement of ill-motivated officials, the resources are wasted or inefficiently used. They are wasted in a simple way. Next, studies conducted to evaluate the performance of PAPs suggested that there have been some noticeable changes over time. Thus, percentage of population below poverty line has declined from 46% in 1973 to 74 to 21.9% in 2011 to 2012. Next, the wage rate has tended to rise over time. Yet PAPs have failed to deliver the desired results. Causes are this. First point, the administration and concerned staff were inefficient and could not work efficiently because of complex procedures involved. Also, there was no one to monitor the follow-up action. Second point, the in charge of the programs favored the educated. Government policies have also failed to address the vast majority of vulnerable people who are living on or just above the poverty line. It also reveals that high growth alone is not sufficient to reduce poverty. Without the active participation of the poor, successful implementation of any program is not possible. Poverty can effectively be eradicated only when the poor start contributing to growth by their active involvement in the growth process. This is only possible through a process of social mobilization, encouraging poor people to participate and get them empowered, to get them educated about the schemes so that they get to know that what are the benefits of the schemes and how they can avail from it. So this were the program elevations or the critical assessment. So next we'll talk about what are the solutions. So I would like to hand over to the other members to tell about the solutions of the poverty.
Measure to solve poverty. Combating poverty through GDP growth. GDP growth is an ultimate solution to the problem of poverty. When the pace of GDP growth is accelerated, new opportunities of employment are generated. More and more workers will find employment in firms and factories. Greater the employment, more inclusive would be the growth process, implying lesser poverty. Measure to remove poverty. Combating poverty through GDP growth. GDP growth is an ultimate solution to the problem of poverty. When the pace of growth of GDP is accelerated, new opportunities of employment are generated. More and more workers will find employment in firms and factories. Greater the employment, more inclusive would be the growth process, implying lesser poverty. Avoid jobless growth. Poverty will reduce with the acceleration of the pace of growth only if jobless growth is avoided. Jobless growth occurs when the GDP growth is technological driven rather than employment driven. The government must ensure that the production process is labor intensive rather than capital technological intensive. Now, second point, combating poverty by improving the distribution of income through fiscal and legislative measures. Fiscal measure. It refers to the policy of taxation and subsidies. The government places greater reliance on progressive tax structure. It implies higher tax on the rich while the poorer are exempted. Tax receipts of the government are used to subsidize purchase by poorer section of the society. Subsidy is offered on items like food, grains and other need of the poor. Capital grants are offered for the poorer for construction of their houses besides grant for self-employment. Second measure, legislative measure. Legislative measure refer to Minimum Wage Act, making it mandatory for the employees to offer the stipulated minimum wage to the employees. Legislative measures also include such policies as of price floor for the purchase of farm output. This refers to stipulated farm price that must be offered to the farmers for the purchase of their output. Laws like right to education is another example of legislative measures to enhance the quality of life of poor segment of the society.
Hello everyone, this is Aswashna with third and fourth solution for eradicating poverty. The third solution is combating poverty by improving the distribution of income through fiscal and legislative measures. First, the fiscal measures. These refers to the policy of taxation and subsidy. It is required that government puts a greater reliance on a progressive tax structure. It implies higher taxation on rich while the poor are exempted. The tax receipts of government are used for subsidized purchases by the poor section of the society. Subsidy is offered on items such as coarse grains, coarse clothes, which are basic needs of a poor. Capital grants are provided to the poor for construction of their houses as well as for their self-employment. Next comes the legislative measures. These refers to the Minimum Wages Act, making it mandatory for the employers to offer minimum wages to the employees. It also includes policies such as price floor for the purchase of farm output. Laws like right to education is yet another example of legislative measures to enhance the living standard of poorer section of the society. Let's move on to the fourth solution, which is stability in price label. Price stability is an essential prerequisite of poverty alleviation. If prices continue to rise, then the living standard of the poor will continue to deteriorate. Prices can be stabilized by step 1, if the production is increased, step 2, if the production for the mass consumption is distributed among the poor through fair price shops. Now let's see some more solutions by Masum and Anushka.
Hello everyone, this is Anushka Swai and here I am to speak on the measures to enhance the quality life of the poor. The first one is eradication of unemployment. Several measures should be taken to eradicate unemployment, underemployment and disguise unemployment from the rural areas. In this context, it may be noted that opportunities of employment in rural areas must be fully explored. The next point is cottage industries and construction activities should be highly encouraged in the rural area so that they can get more benefits of employment.
The next is vocationalization of education should be highly prioritized to tackle unemployment for the educational youths.
Hello everyone, this is Masoom, and the next point is adoption of the level internship technique of production. It is an opinion that India must adopt the level internship technique of production. Adoption of this increases the level of employment and thus decreases the level of poverty.
The next measure is provision for minimum needs of the poor. Government should take more and more steps to enhance the minimum needs of the poor, such as drinking water, primary health centers, education, etc. Public sector should also allocate more funds to enhance these qualities so that more number of poor people can get employment. Thank you.
Last but not the least, special focus on the backward classes. Government should give special concessions and facilities to the poor and the backward people so as to encourage the private involvement. So that's all for today's session. Thank you.